In this exercise tutorial, I'm going to be taking you through how to do an oblique sit-up on one of these incline benches. Now, firstly, if you've never done this before, the amount of incline you have directly correlates to how hard the exercise is going to be. So if you have a really big incline, if the bench is up really high, that's going to be harder. If you have a lower incline, it's going to be easier. So if you've never done this before, start off with a low incline first, then progress up from there. Now, one of the bits of feedback that I get from clients a lot is that they feel a lot of hip flexors and a lot of lower back when they do an incline oblique sit-up. And that's because they generally are coming up really high. And I'm going to go through some cues of how we can really get the core and obliques working, and those being the main drivers of this movement, as opposed to feeling this all in the hip flexors and lower back, which defeats the point of a core exercise. So what I want to do is firstly straddle the bench. You'll notice here I've got a hand grip, so I'm going to place my hands on there for balance and support. I bring my feet underneath this second pad and my knees on top of this first pad. So I've got the backs of my knees in contact with the first pad. I've then got this second pad, which is just on my shins. What I'll often see is people will come all the way back into this position, and they'll bring their hands behind their head and they'll crunch up really hard, and then to get the obliques in, they'll then bring that elbow to the opposite knee. Now, as I've done that, straight away I've felt my hip flexors try and dominate that movement to come up, and in that flexed position I can then feel my lower back. So whilst there's a little bit of core working there, it's not the main driver when I'm doing that. So what I want to do instead is I'm going to come all the way back. I'm going to make sure that my lower back and my mid back are in contact with the bench, hands behind the head. So the whole weight of my head is in my hands now. I'm just going to bring my shoulders just slightly off of the bench. Now what I want you to do is imagine you're going to crunch up first and then bring the elbow round to face the opposite knee. Back, neutral, keep the shoulders off, crunch up, and opposite knee. When I'm doing this in terms of breathing, I'd be breathing in on the way up and out on the way down. Breathing in on the way up and out on the way down. One cue that's really important as well, a lot of people will get stressed with the neck flexors in this if they're coming up and the neck isn't trained properly or is new to this exercise. So by taking the hands and placing them behind the head, you'll get less neck flexor and more core involvement because you won't be snapping the head forward during the movement. Now lastly, when it comes to eye line, really important that we're looking at the ceiling. So when I crunch up, notice my eye line still looking at the ceiling, and then I look away when I do that second part and rotate towards the opposite knee. That's how to do an oblique crunch on an incline bench, and you would repeat that for your desired amount of sets and repetitions.